Welcome to Roll for Geekiness. J and G here, and I'd say we just got back from EndWar, but we didn't. We've already recorded this video once, and it didn't save right, and we had some delays in re-recording it, so now EndWar was like 2 weeks ago, and well, we're still going to do our event report.
Yeah.
And we're going to try and cover all the same points we covered when we first sat down to do this video. I think we should still be able to manage that. And with that said, let's dive right into it. So, EndWar. EndWar is a little different than some other events that we've been to. So, would you like to tell our viewers about EndWar?
It is one of the biggest HvZ events, or human vs. zombie events, where there's a group of surviving humans trying to do certain objectives or overall just survive a zombie horde. The thing with EndWar is it doesn't just stay in one place, it moves around. So each year it's in a different location.
Yep, up and down. I'd say the East Coast, but I think in 2018 it was in Ohio, so it bounces around. I think there's one other word to squeak in about EndWar, and that it's an invitational. I think is the word that they use, because if we're talking about humans versus zombies, let's back up again then.
Yeah.
You described a little bit about humans versus zombies. Humans versus zombies. So, humans versus zombies. I guess without going too deep into the history, it's a foam-flinging game mode where humans are trying to survive using various spring and motorized powered foam dart projectiles to protect themselves against the ever-growing horde of zombies. It's a very popular game mode across many college campuses, and that's one of the reasons why EndWar moves around. It jumps around between various colleges that have HvZ events, and the core group of organizers work with the club there to put on this event year after year. And when I say invitational, that's an important bit to note, because while, like I said, many of these colleges and universities have their own HvZ clubs and are doing their own HvZ events, you usually can't participate unless you're a student at those events. So an invitational event means that people like G and I, who are obviously not college students, can go and participate in these events. Right, so humans versus zombies, invitational, foam flinging. Foam flinging. We're going to use that term a lot throughout the course of this video. It is, in short, I mean, I could go on a completely different tangent about this.
Yeah.
In short, it is any way in which you are using some sort of
dart blaster toy to launch foam darts.
Exactly. Whether that is motorized or spring-powered or air-powered or whatever. And if you're still confused about that, then maybe you're probably more familiar with the term nerfing. But the hobby has been moving away from using that term over the last few years, because there are many other large and small manufacturers in that hobby space now, and Nerf is obviously one single brand. So EndWar was going on. We'll come back and talk about what actually happened at EndWar in a minute. But there were a few other things happening over the course of the weekend too, and notably, FoamCon was an event that always happens the morning/day before EndWar. It was a small event, I think a little bit smaller this year still because pandemic's still a thing.
And at FoamCon there's many vendors showing off what they've done, possibly selling some of that. There's multiple creators there, sharing some of their work, being there to bond the community.
And there may have been there. I think there were a couple clubs there too that may have had some tables. It was relatively small. I mean, we kind of walked through and saw everything there was to see in the few hours that it was open. It was open only from 10 to 3:30. And we definitely saw everything well before that time was over and got all our equipment checked in for EndWar and everything else that needed to be done. So it wasn't huge, but like I said, I know there were a few notable retailers in our hobby space that weren't there, that normally would have been there. And yeah, it's a thing that just always kind of happens before EndWar, I've gathered, and is a great way to just kind of like connect with other people in the hobby space, see some cool things. I think we came away with some cool new ideas and some cool little things we might want to try going forward.
Yeah.
From just seeing some of the other creativity that was on display there.
It gave us inspiration, I guess is the proper term there.
Yeah, and you want to get into HPA blasters now, so
It's a possibility. It's a possibility.
Anyway, it's also worth noting that the weekend was bracketed by another event in our hobby space, the Foam Pro Tour. And I'm not going to talk much about that because you can Google the Foam Pro Tour and see all the videos from all the qualifiers and probably even from the finals at this point. Thursday before EndWar was the final qualifier for the event, and the finals of the tournament were on Sunday.
Yeah, it is competitive foam flinging, essentially.
5v5, and these are the people that like have taken what's a game, like a backyard game, and elevated it truly to a sport. So we didn't go to either of those parts of the event, but I've definitely watched video footage of this stuff before, and these are skilled individuals, and it's fun to watch them do their thing. And they're definitely pushing us into a sport, in this hobby into being a sport. So all that said, those were other things that were going on around the weekend that made it a destination for all kinds of people in our hobby space. We were there for EndWar, which, like we said, biggest HvZ event probably in the country, maybe in the world.
Yeah, and people from all over come in, and just seeing like license plates on cars in the parking lots as we walk through. There was so much variation, people from very far away. This is a very big thing for our community.
Yeah, so even just to put it in perspective, the people that put on EndWar every year, the organizational staff specifically for EndWar, are from Georgia, right? And this year the event was in Rochester, New York, at RIT. I think, obviously, we haven't had it since 2019. I think 2019 was in Georgia. I think 2018 was in Ohio somewhere. 2020 was supposed to be in Pennsylvania. Obviously, that got canceled. Yeah, but we saw plates from all up and down the East Coast, and out to Ohio, and 300 to 400 people.
Yeah, I'd say there's 300 to 400 people there, which is around what tends to be there, but possibly a bit higher than certain events, but also that could be because of the amount of holdup, the fact that we weren't able to go for 2 years.
Yeah.
That we missed 2 years because it went from 2019 to 2022.
Yeah, I think people are definitely excited to get out and playing again, so that may have driven numbers up. I think also the fact that this year the Foam Pro Tour was a little bit bigger deal than usual because it actually had some corporate sponsorship behind it this year, and was a bigger thing with like cash prizes and the whole 9 yards. Brought in some people that might not have come for HvZ but had come for the FPT. We definitely ran into a few people that were like, I've never done HvZ before, but I'm on one of the competing teams, so I may as well be here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean...
Also, like, there was a lot of new people, a lot of people new to going to EndWar or HvZ in general, a lot of veterans who have been to many EndWars, done a lot of HvZ throughout their foam flinging career.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It brings all sorts of people in from all over.
Right. It did. So it started on Friday night and then ran all the way through Saturday. Started Saturday morning to Saturday evening. And yeah, the object is to stay alive. And I don't know what kind of hurdles there are involved when you're trying to put on an event with from so far away, from Georgia to New York, and working with a lot of the moderators were members of the RIT club, so you've got people who are not necessarily part of your regular crew. I don't know what all those hurdles are, but there was definitely some miscommunication about where things were supposed to start, and that was kind of the first frustration point, is that we didn't know where we were really even supposed to be on Friday night, because EndWar did not start at the same place that FoamCon had been earlier in the day.
Even though it had been previously stated that that was one of the points.
Actually, the biggest problem was there was very little information ahead of time.
Yes.
There were a few notices that were posted to Facebook ahead of time that had talked about the FPS cap, talked about the safety protocols for the event, and then there was one that had a very loose schedule, and that schedule had a room number, but not a building number or building name. And that same location was given for everything. So I think a lot of people, us included, assumed that it was going to be at the same place as the Foam Pro Tour, and that wasn't the case. And some people managed to get the memo that EndWar was someplace else, and we kind of followed them and eventually got to the right place. But yeah, it definitely delayed us kind of like getting started and geared up and settled in and feeling like we were ready to get going. I think our next big frustration came too with, they started everything off. Hey everybody, normally I think to start the missions off, everyone would have been like in an auditorium style building, and they would have like put something up on a projector on the wall, and they would have been on the microphones, and they would have said, here's the mission objective, here's a map, here's what you guys are doing. Obviously, with COVID still being a thing, they probably didn't want to shove everybody into an auditorium to do the mission briefing. And so they said, the mission briefing is now available on a video posted to the Facebook group. Someone in your group should probably be able to get to that. Go. Well, that became the point of our second point of frustration.
So, yeah, the thing with that is a lot of people either don't have access to Facebook or, like, don't have their devices on them that could access Facebook, or, like, and those people, and sure, they say someone in your group might have access, but for a lot of people, they didn't have a large group to work with. So, there was a lot of people asking around a lot, including us. And I feel like the lack of information might have messed up people a bit, but it was still fun.
We rolled with it, but it definitely felt frustrating to not have information that other people had, because, well, I mean, while yes, I have Facebook and yes, I have a smartphone, I don't have Facebook on my smartphone, so I couldn't pull up that video. Even if that video had just been on YouTube, to like a YouTube channel of some sort, I could have gotten at it and it would have felt a little less disconnecting.
Because
and I think
you don't require an app for that, and you don't need a account. You don't need an account for that, which is really the big thing, because with Facebook you have to have an account to access stuff.
Yep.
On YouTube you can use a guest account or just a guest login, and you can find those videos and watch them without having to be an active account.
Yeah, I mean, some people...
Without having to be an active account owner on YouTube.
Yeah, some people, like, don't have Facebook for valid reasons, or have opted to not use Facebook anymore and move on to other social media platforms. So, and given how little information was posted to Facebook before the event and how long it took the mods to answer questions on those posts on Facebook, there wasn't really anything ahead of time that would have indicated that Facebook is the place to be to get information about the event ahead of time, or even during the event, and definitely not that any communication that it would be the main method of pushing information out during the event. So that caught us by surprise. And then the assumption that someone in your squad should probably be able to get it even if you can't. Well, I mean, there were a lot of people who didn't have a squad, like, us included.
Yeah, like if they're in like a group of 2 or 3, or if they went by themselves but maybe have some friends that went, but they might not be a squad, stuff like that.
And interestingly, like, we were kind of like looking around to see if we could like find a couple other people who looked a little lost, and maybe we could all band together, and or maybe at least we could like watch the video over somebody's shoulder. And like in that moment, that was a lot harder to do than I thought it would. Like, people kind of closed up. You're like, can I what? No. Okay. Do you guys want to band up with it? No. Oh, okay. And, you know, I think we managed by just kind of like following a herd.
Yeah.
We followed a herd to like one of the objectives, and we kind of like were able to glean enough information from people around us. But, you know, that herd was comprised of like 3 different squads, and then they all went off to like different objective points. So like then we followed these people, and then by the time we got on to like the 3rd objective point, I think we're completely following a completely different bunch of people then. Like we... And so...
And obviously, with the people that knew the campus, they were referring to where stuff was based on the quads on the campus, like map, as it is outside of EndWar. Or they would mention landmarks. And we didn't know the names of the different quads. We didn't know where those landmarks were. So there was a lot of kind of aimlessly running around a bit.
I mean, I had a campus map on my phone, but that doesn't necessarily tell you what the Infinity Quad is, for example, which was a place that we kept coming back through multiple times over the weekend. We eventually became very familiar with it, knew exactly where it was, but you can't like look at a campus map and go, where's Infinity Quad? Like, you could find a building pretty easily, and, you know, especially if, you know, you had a moment to like pull things up and search. But yeah.
And one of them was by the tennis courts, and everyone just kept saying by the tennis courts. And that isn't very helpful because we didn't know where the tennis courts were.
Which was also the gazebo. So people would either say it's the gazebo or it's out by the tennis courts.
Because there's a gazebo with like a walking path between that and the tennis courts. So people kept saying the gazebo or the tennis courts. And that kind of got us mixed up because we thought those could possibly be 2 different objective points.
Yeah, and I mean, we managed, but like at a certain point, like when we're following a completely different bunch of people now, it's like, so now we're following people who've been to some of the objectives that we haven't been to. And so, you know, you're looking at somebody's like little card that they're supposed to get checked off, and you're like, we haven't been to checkpoint 4 yet. Where was checkpoint 4? Because you could see they had it checked off. And they were like, I don't know, like I wasn't paying attention to which one got checked off at whatever place. So we all that said, we did almost get all 5 of them, and we were on the right direction to get to the last one before
we got chased by some zombies with a lot of energy uphill after we were quite worn out from a lot of moving around.
Yeah, and this was one of those moments when we'd kind of managed to form a ragtag squad of people that weren't part of some larger group, because all the larger groups didn't really want newbies. And yeah, I mean, you know, a ragtag bunch of people don't have a lot of loyalty built into them thus far. So, you know, when we were like Right, we're having mobility issues at this point, and we're not going to be able to run up this hill against that horde of zombies. And the horde of zombies is like, that's a very small bunch of people. I bet we can get them.
At that point, the
That
rest had already ran off
they're
past the
gone.
bridge. They're past multiple corners, and it's just us
It
and
was time for our
zombies
last
with
stand.
a lot of energy, and that's how we got eliminated on the
We didn't
first
get
mission.
eliminated. We
Well,
got turned into zombies.
we weren't on the human team anymore on the first mission.
Yeah, but I think those couple points of frustration, they almost led to us deciding to go home at the end of Friday night because we were like, we are tired, we are frustrated, we are, it feels like things are not running smoothly here. That said, we stuck it out and we said, all right, we'll be zombies for tomorrow as long as we can, and
We got through the entire day. We did the last stand.
we did, and I had fun.
I had fun.
Yeah, I mean, we had fun. We would go do this event again, but I think it definitely got off to a bumpy start for us, and part of that was just because of some miscommunication or lack of communication, and some I I hesitate to use the word, but I'm going to say like mismanagement of information or just the dissemination of information in that in those missions that left us feeling kind of frustrated. I'm gonna say it, and I hope the event organizers will hear this and take that as some constructive criticism and rethink how they do some of these things in the future. But yeah, no, we'll definitely go back when it's not like a 12-hour drive for us to go again. Lessons learned.
One thing that we didn't cover is the way we packed. So we ended up bringing a lot of blasters, a lot of equipment, without thinking about the fact that we wouldn't know what the mission exactly was before we started. Because what we're used to, is we would have the information beforehand. Like, some people could switch blasters and stuff if needed to balance stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Here we didn't have that, so we brought a lot of blasters, but then we realized that we couldn't really, at that moment, once we're giving the mission briefing, change blasters, change equipment, get ready for what that was. Because what we did is we went out to the spot, they gave us the mission briefing, and then it started.
Yeah.
So, honestly, next time I think we would bring less blasters, and the certain type of blasters that managed to survive longer was high rate of fire, high FPS blasters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, right, like you said, and I think, right, there's a side effect of the fact that most of our play up until now has been very mission specific, and there'll be special objectives, or there might be mechanics involved like shields where you need to have a mega style dart, which are the much bigger diameter darts.
Much bigger than this.
The red ones.
The big red ones that whistle.
Or the Accu ones don't whistle. But anyway, yeah. Right, and you might need, if somebody's got a shield, you might need a mega dart to be able to impact that, or there might be some boss that only is affected by some other ammunition type. And EndWar doesn't do that. EndWar says everything just uses darts, because we're not going to expect everybody to bring different ammunition types. So already, like, 3 of the blasters we brought were just like, right, we don't need those.
Yeah.
Like, they serve no purpose for us at all this weekend. There's no point in us bringing them. And yeah, we like to be able to swap, like you said, we like to be able to swap stuff out to maybe keep teams even, or more better fit a mission parameter or something. And that just wasn't a thing. Like, it's just, you need to have your blaster that is like your tried and true blaster. And yeah, definitely towards the end, you saw the people that were still humans were the ones that had those blasters that we're really riding that 130 FPS cap, and we're essentially like fire hoses of foam.
Like
They're just spewing foam at like anything that came anywhere near them, because that's
dumping
all
all
they
their
could.
ammo just like right into it.
Because that's what's going to actually slow down the zombie horde, not some blaster that's like bang, 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 right? I think we might rethink a few. I'm already rethinking a build that's underway in terms of like how can I maybe get a little bit more performance out of it so that it would be a little bit more competitive and a little bit more like in line with the types of blasters we were seeing at this event, and I think you might be too.
Yes, that is for sure.
So yes, there'll be more
Yeah.
mods in the next year as we go. All right, these are our HvZ blasters. So with that in mind, I guess stay tuned for some more foam flinging mods as we get ready for next year's EndWar, assuming that it is somewhere close.